Spokesperson for former Water Resources Works and Housing Minister Dauda, Eric Opoku, says the monies expended on the SAGLEMI Housing Project during his time at the ministry were disbursed directly from the Finance Ministry. Mr. Dauda, who supervised the initiative at the time it was approved by Parliament, has been charged with causing financial loss to the state and intentionally misapplying public property. He has, through his spokesperson, been defending his role in the execution of the project. Let's hear from Eric Opoku.
In the first place, I want to put it on record that the $200 million Ghana secured for the SAGLEMI Housing Project was never given to Alhaji Collins Dauda, nor the Ministry of Works and Housing. The entire facility was at the Ministry of Finance. And the Ministry of Works and Housing, under the supervision of Alhaji Collins Dauda, was to supervise the project implementation. So when the consultant on the project, in this case, AESL, generates certificates, performance certificates, it was the duty of the ministry to add a covering letter and forward the certificate to the Ministry of Finance for payment. That was the arrangement. So Collins Dauda was not directly responsible for the disbursement of the funds.
But before the minister would issue a certificate, he must have, or the ministry must have done their checks to establish that the work that has been done merits a certificate, which would then warrant a cover letter from him under his hand recommending payment.
Perfectly. I agree with you perfectly. But you must also understand that in respect of the same facility, Collins Dauda supervised the construction for a period, left the ministry. Another minister, Honorable Ajma Mensah, took over. He continued with the project. And then in 2017, the new government, NDP government, came to power, and Honorable Atakia also continued. It must be indicated that during the time of Honorable Atakia, a certificate was annexed. So if it is about the recommendation, then all the three ministers who supervised the construction also issued certificates for payment or recommended certificates for payment.
So his response to the charge of intentionally misapplying the $200 million and also causing financial loss to the state will be?
That it is never true. Even during Collins Dauda's time, to be honest with you, Collins Dauda left the ministry somewhere in April 2015. When you look at the payments that were made, at the time Collins Dauda was living, almost 90 million of the total sum had been disbursed. 90 million. And in the contract, it is provided that the contractor should be given a mobilization of 40% of the contract sum, which is $80 million. And so it means that at the time Collins Dauda was living, just the mobilization had been paid. And so how would you say that Collins Dauda intentionally misapplied $200 million? It's neither here nor there. The explanation is simple. The $200 million was meant for the construction of 5,000 housing units. Only the housing units. But you understand that when you put up those structures, the place cannot be habitable. Government was to provide all the other facilities, roads, drainage, sewage, electricity, and all the other facilities that will make the place habitable. But that fund from government did not come. And so the ministry decided to use the $200 million to provide those facilities in addition to the buildings that they are to provide. And that was the reason why the minister who started the project, you know, the facility was brought to Parliament by Honorable U.T. Mensah. Honorable U.T. Mensah testified that the project was going to be implemented in phases. So they will, at the end of the period, provide the 5,000 housing units, but in phases. Honorable Collins Dauda came to that office and said, instead of 4 phases, can we do it 3 phases? And the first phase is what is being implemented now. That is the first phase. And in fact, when you read the 2018 budget submitted to Parliament by the government of the NPP, page 99, it is stated that 75% of the first phase of the SAGLEMI project is complete. So why is it that today, after indicating to the whole country that the first phase, 75 of it, is complete, now you are saying that no, the entire project was 5,000 and Collins Dauda unilaterally reduced it to 1,502. That is not the case.
Now, joining us via Zoom to help us understand this further is Kobna Tabedu, procurement expert. Thanks for joining us, sir. In the first place, so Mr. Eric Opoku, speaking on behalf of Collins Dauda, says he did not receive or make any payments. He only authorized the work done for the payments to be made. Does that absolve anyone of wrongdoing in causing financial loss to the state case?
Is this directed to me?
Yes, yes.
No, I completely disagree with him on that. The fact that the paying agency has nothing to do with it. In construction, you appoint a construction consultants who are project managers. The finance ministry is only the paying agency, the disbursement agency. They will pay whatever payment certificate you certify. So the question is, who did the assessment of the works? Who measured the works and certified that the work has been done? And this is the value of the work. And based on which they issued a certificate, based on which finance will pay. So what he is talking about is a red herring.
Interesting. So what of the arguments that has been made that payments were made even under this administration? Now, with a bit of context to that, some 5 million was paid in March 2017. We understand more monies were also paid even in June 2017. And Mr. Atachia says that, who was the minister at the time, he says that it was Mr. Ziblim, Alhaji Ziblim, the chief director, who authorized for those payments to be made on his blind side. What do you make of Mr. Collins Dauda's arguments that all the ministers for works and housing should face the music as he is doing now?
To the best of my knowledge, as soon as Atachia took office, he flagged it. So Collins Dauda can't say that every minister should also take a share of the blame. Now, who created the liability in the first place is Collins Dauda. So he is responsible for the mess. And I'm using the word the mess. Now, why is it so? If you go to Parliament to sign an agreement to take $200 million to build 500 units, you don't revise the volume and still maintain the price. And you don't do that without recourse to Parliament. So the question is that what necessitated the revision of the rates? Because as I stand now, my understanding is that the unit that we built is 1,480 something. It's not even 1,500. So that is less than 25% of the volume. Now, what it means is that the value of what we have acquired is like 4 times the cost of what originally it should have been. In typical contract management, when a contract becomes something that you have to vary it beyond 20%, it means it's a significant variation. And normally, you should scrap the whole contract and re-tender it. So why is it that Collins Dauda didn't choose that discourse? And he went ahead to change the contract and do those revisions. Now, what is the governance system that exists within the ministry? Can the chief director go ahead and approve certain payments without recourse to the minister? So if you audit them and we audit the processes, you find the lapses in the system. People did not do their work, and it's not just the politicians.
Mr. Tabedu, thank you very much for giving us that clarity on the response of Collins Dauda's spokesperson. We're very grateful for your time. Comrade Tabedu is a procurement expert.